Hi everyone, TARDIS Guy123 here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Torchwood, Uncanny Valley.
The 21st century is when everything changes, and you've got to be ready.
So then Torchwood kicked off 2016 with another release starring John Barrowman as the titular character of Torchwood, Captain Jack Harkness. And, well, you know, Torchwood had been going very well at this point. All four previous releases had gone down well with fans and critics alike. And now we enter another year of Torchwood's releases. And, well, let's just say I'm glad I didn't pick this one up first, because I was originally choosing between either this one or More Than This as my first Torchwood release. Yeah, I probably should have gone with the Conspiracy first, given that was at the start, but whatever, I'm strange. So I ended up going for More Than This instead, which was the final release of Series 1, which ended up having nothing to do with the overall story whatsoever. But, you know, I'm glad I did go for that one and not this one. Not because this one's necessarily bad, we'll talk about that, but because it is very much tied in to the overall story arc. But yeah, anyway, let's take a look at what we have here. We have Torchwood, Uncanny Valley, written by David Llewellyn. I'm just going to stick with that. And then of course got Big Finish, Wheel of Stories down there. Quite a nice cover there. I will say you've got multiple Jacks in the background. Sort of like one where it's just the head, one where it's just the body. And you've got sort of like a warehouse going on there. Beautiful cover, one of the best of the Torchwood range. Flipping onto the side now, you have release number 5 written down there. Torchwood Uncanny Valley written on the side as per usual. On the back here, we have the blurb and cast and whatnot. Small cast for this one, only 3 characters as you can see there, and one of them's really just a minor role, only in it for about 1 or 2 scenes. So it is really only a 2-hander, this one. There's your disc, and if I take that out, you can see advertisements for the 4 previous releases behind that. And then if I take the booklet out, which might not be as easy. Oh no, it's quite easy to take out this one. You just got cover again there. Production credits on the back. And flipping over to the inside out, you can see the aforementioned More Than This, and then some images of cast right there. As previously mentioned, this release does tie into the overall arc with the committee here, so you will probably have needed to listen to the Conspiracy to get some of the background details behind what's going on there, and there are also some references to the events of that story going on here too, and this is very much a continuation of that. For the most part, it doesn't really add too much. There's a bit of a revelation at the end, but nevertheless it is a continuation of the committee storyline, and it does get a bit more interesting in this release. Now, while continuing on with the committee's storyline, this one is quite small in scale really. It's basically just a conversation between Jack Harkness and Neil Redmond, who is pretty much the main character of this really. It's all about him for the most part, with Jack just getting information out of him. And Neil Redmond is basically a owner of a massive company, everything, quite influential, and he ended up getting into an accident, and you know, it basically crushed his lower legs, everything, and he wasn't able to walk ever again, and that both shook him physically, obviously, and mentally as well. His psyche's never quite the same, and so a mysterious other force comes along, a third party, and offers him a robot duplicate who can do all the things he used to do for him, while he gets to sit back and relax, and his company is in safe hands pretty much, and the world would be none the wiser. And he instantly takes them up on this offer, and obviously this mysterious third party has quite a few connections to the committee. So that's very much the storyline that's going on here, and Jack is trying to find out exactly what's going on here, what they're after, why they have done this, and he believes that everything was orchestrated by the committee and that his car accident was, well, no accident. And that is pretty much the crux of the story. It's basically Jack talking to Neil Redmond, and then while Neil's talking about all the events and what happened, they get told through flashbacks with him and his robot. So there are 3 characters, but because it's a robot duplicate, it's only really 2 voices for the most part. And yes, you probably picked up, well, what does this have to do with the cover? We see robot duplicates of Jack and not Neil. And well, the cover has nothing to do with it really, and that's a shame, I think, because the cover seems to tell a much more interesting story than the one you're actually getting into. So it's rather unfortunate, and that's one big negative here, in that the cover is very deceptive. It has nothing really to do with the actual story, and it'd be quite interesting to see a squad or an army of Jacks going about the place. You know, I think that would have been maybe a more interesting route to go down. I don't know, it's just, you know, when you're presented with that opportunity on the cover, it's rather a shame that they don't go with that. But yeah, Uncanny Valley, obviously, the Uncanny Valley itself as a concept is the idea that when something gets too close to human, then it becomes creepy. And, you know, despite that being sort of a physical thing for the most part, this does very much apply to this, with Neil Redmond's robot being very creepy. I mean, honestly, it's sadistic at times, and I think that is very well done there on the writing and the effects and the performance. It is a very creepy creation, I will say, and, you know, you begin to feel how the characters feel, especially Neil having this robot duplicate who looks exactly like him. You sort of like get this idea as to what's going on there, and, you know, how creepy this thing is, because often when you see robot duplicates on TV, they don't go too much into depth with them, and they do seem very much the same for the most part, but here they go to a whole new level of creepiness, really. It is incredible, and, you know, it's hard to describe, but basically over the hour you get this build up of tension, and, you know, I will say that the robot is quite, well, just creepy really, and it is very much in that Uncanny Valley area, in that it's close to human but not quite, and, you know, at the same time it's just, it sends shivers down your spine when you're listening to it. That is a very well done element of the story, I will say. However, there is a however here. Once you get to the story's climax, and after that, the robot does become a bit iffy, really. It's sort of like doing all these running, sort of like can run really fast and everything, sort of like your typical robot thing. And it takes away from the fear factor of it, really. It suddenly becomes less creepy and just becomes your average robot, sadly, as we get sort of like the action-packed finale of the disc. Which is unfortunate, because after all that tension, there isn't really too much payoff in that respect. And, you know, that's just rather disappointing, really. And for the most part, it is really just killing time, really. There isn't really much purpose to the first 50 minutes of this release, other than to build up that tension and make that robot creepy. You don't really learn anything new. You can pretty much piece everything together before it happens, really. And it's only really the climax of the story, those last 5 or 10 minutes, where things get a bit more action-packed, and the action just doesn't really work as a payoff. So I'd say, while that robot is extremely creepy, it is a bit flawed in the story structure as a whole, as that works out. Also, you've probably heard about this if you've read other reviews, this one is definitely one of the more adult of Big Finish's Torchwood releases. Yes, Jack does get well, Jack gets it on with the robot double, really. It's a bit of a spoiler, but I don't know. It's just extremely awkward to listen to. It truly is. You know, it's just... If you listen to it aloud with your parents wandering about, then you'd feel really awkward, but at the same time, just listening to it by yourself feels really awkward. I don't know why. It is just really awkward. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I didn't really enjoy those scenes. No swearing in this one though, which is odd. You know, there was a bit of an odd balance there where you got no swearing, but you got all this sex going on. I don't know, but yeah, it's just... And the stuff that it's alluded to, admittedly, it does add to the creepiness of the robot, I guess. You know, sort of like the off-screen sex that's alluded to involving the robot is very, very creepy. It does add to the creepiness of the robot, so I will congratulate them if that was their aim, to make this a really disturbing listen, and it definitely succeeds in that respect. I don't know, parts of it do just feel awkward. You just sort of like feel, you're just sitting there thinking, can we move on to the next scene please? I was tempted to skip ahead a bit, just to continue the actual story rather than listening to that, but it's just an awkward listening towards those moments. But at the same time, you know, maybe that was the intention, to add to the creepiness of the robot. It certainly does make it more creepy, but yeah, it's just, I've said everything I can really say about this without getting too gratuitous in the details. And you know, it's not really gratuitous in the story itself. I guess maybe it does indulge it a bit too much, but for the most part it's not too gratuitous. But yeah, it's just, I guess it needed to be there for the story itself, but do be aware of that going in. I think that will very much affect whether or not you end up liking this story in the end. So yeah, just, it's a bit of a spoiler warning me saying that, but I think it is probably worthwhile, because knowing that information, knowing how you feel towards that sort of thing, will very much help decide whether or not this is going to be a waste of 10 quid for you, or whether it's going to work for you. Because I think there is still a bit to enjoy here, especially the creepiness of that robot. Ultimately, Uncanny Valley does live up to its name. Doesn't live up to its cover though, but it certainly is a very creepy tale. Certainly very different to anything I've experienced before from Big Finish. Still unsure whether that's a good different or a bad different, but you know, from what I've described to you, it's up to you to make up your mind on that. And if you do want to go for this release, then I will say do enjoy it. Well, I hope that you can get over those things that I maybe could not, and do enjoy the creepiness of the story even more. There are a couple of revelations that are important to the committee plotline, but I wouldn't say essential. You'll probably easily get them from another release. So ultimately, whether or not you want to pick this one up, whether or not you're interested in Torchwood, it's up to you. If you just want to pick and choose from the Torchwood line and aren't really bothered by the overall plot, then I'd say this one is probably one you can give a miss to. But nevertheless, if you're really into those sort of creepy horror stories that play on sort of like that Uncanny Valley realm and have those sort of like human elements to them rather than classic gothic horror elements that Doctor Who often does, then this one might just be the release for you. Rating wise for me, I think I'll be nice, I'll go 6 out of 10 for this one, but that's just me. This will very much depend on the listener, and as I said, it was a very disturbing listen, but whether or not that's a good or a bad thing is up to you to decide. So then, thank you all for watching everyone, I guess is all I can say now. Next review will be of The Visitation, much lighter story, and until then, I will see you all next time. Bye everyone.
Who are you? Hey, what do you want?
My name is Jack Harkness. I'm here to help you.
If you don't leave right away, I'm phoning the police.
Mr. Redmond, I know that isn't you in St. Petersburg. We need to talk.
Are you afraid of dying? Look what you made me do, Jack.
Nothing which has happened to you these last few years was an accident. Everything was by design.
Neil Redmond.
Neil Redmond.
Neil Redmond.
Well, that was definitely the most awkward review I've ever recorded.